Hello, I'm David the Collector, and I'm here at an exciting art opening. Today we are in downtown LA at Sow Tailor for the opening of Tidawhitney Lek. Her show is called Household, and she brings household representations of her home as a child, together with compositions of hands and other elements of her heritage to bring together a great piece.
My name is Tidawhitney Lek, and I'm having my first solo debut here in LA at Sow Tailor. I have a full solo exhibition. The show is called Household, and it's about generational trauma, an underlining of generational trauma, but really the perspective of the Cambodian American life, beginning in the space of the home.
Amazing. Tell us about this painting a little bit.
This painting is called Dong Mai, and it's actually a crop snapshot of one of the storefronts of a local Asian grocery store that we go to all the time. And it's actually, that's its new location. And before Dong Mai had moved there, it used to be a grocery store called Kim Heng, and I have floods of memory of that location. So in this painting, I had put Dong Mai as a present day, and then I played with the picture plane, that being like I inserted my mother's portrait in here, and then added the little butterfly to so kind of like, and created it life size so that it feels like you're there. So this is kind of my picture of that.
Amazing, amazing.
Hi, my name is Karen Galloway, and I am the owner and director of Sow Tailor in Los Angeles, California.
Thank you so much for having us. I love the gallery. Can you tell us a little bit about the gallery and the show?
Sure. Well, this is Sow Tailor, and we opened last April with a group show that Tita was in called Hot Concrete. And yeah, it's a family-run space. It's my husband, myself, our partner Stefano, and we were kind of inspired on the birth of our daughter. And yeah, just keeping it in the community. And yeah, you know, we love Tita, and we are trying to build like a little artist community around our small space.
Yeah, you can immediately tell when you're part of sort of the artist family as opposed to the gallery family. It kind of has a different vibe altogether. So yes, I love that about this gallery.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely not like traditional gallery space, but you know, we really just like want to keep it like in the family. We don't represent anyone, so that also like sets us apart from, you know, the traditional aspect as well. Congratulations, Tita. You are so talented, and I am so happy for you. And I love this painting. It's absolutely beautiful, and all of the symbolism in it is just like incredible.
In Tita's show Household, she shows familiar representations of the home with these crazy hand motifs that represent the Khmer Rouge, a challenge her family faced in its past, sort of escaping from this group and finding its home in the United States. So I really like this one. This is one of my favorites. It sort of shows, again, the element of being at home, but sort of a fantastical background, really bringing in sort of the vibe of the feeling of the painting, and then these hands sort of grabbing at you, pulling at you. Even though you're at home, there's this outside culture that speaks really loud and makes a big impression. So the computer's really pulling you in and sort of speaks to a lot of the work in the show. I really love this work. In this one, the old really becomes the new in a more direct way. You have the actual family portrait that she's taken and referenced directly, as well as sort of all of the elements of old and familiar kind of brought together in the one image. You have the anxiety produced by the hands coming out of the closet, as well as sort of the illusion of, are we inside or outside? It's sort of unclear. So I really like this one. It sort of shows, again, the past to the future and how it all comes together. Can you tell us about some of the motifs from the show, like the hands?
The hands became a representation of that underlining generational trauma that I label it as violence, but it's really like that's a really broad term of it, because I wanted to bring these idea that it has to be with like a human interaction, you know. So the hands kind of like lurk and pop out in these places, but they seem to be. But it's like a mix of things. They seem to care for you, but at the same time they seem to be lurking. It's kind of like mischievous. That's the. Actually, when I started using them too, it was because my mom said my hands were wrinkly, but she really meant to say they're hardworking hands. And I kind of took a look at her hands actually and was thinking about this life as a woman and the hard work and how that hand actually kind of presents that too, because initially I didn't paint nails. And then I was like, well, how do people know they're hardworking hands, but do they know they're woman hands? That was like the thing I was trying to make sure like the narrative would not leave that. Like it's the feminine point of view, it's that point of view. So started adding the nail, and then the glitter was a more pizzazz. Like as that started to become like a medium I started working with, I started throwing it into the concrete. That's how the hand started really, actually.
Okay, cool. That's such a cool story. Thank you for sharing. I really like this piece. This is probably the biggest piece, or it is the biggest piece in the show, and sort of has all the elements: the familiar home from the outside porch, the friendly neighbors, the more traditional wardrobe of her heritage, the hands representing, again, the Khmer Rouge, the shiny, sparkly nails. We even have a Ralph's bag with the water being delivered. So the fantastical elements, the beautiful sunset, as well as the scenery in the background, combined with the home to create a fantastical composition, bringing both together. It's not an art show in LA without a storefront. So here you have sort of the combination of this storefront motif with all the graffiti, as well as sort of the background and more of the heritage imagery. You can't really tell if it's inside or out. There's the light switch against the background of plants, as well as the hands, again, grabbing for you, producing a bit of anxiety that sort of continues to run through you even as things change and time moves on. Here's another fantastic piece. We have the family portrait redone in the style of the artist with sort of the plant background. This is a very small version. I think this is really cool, sort of taking an element of her past and referencing it directly. You often see artists reference other artists and sort of the artistical context of where they came from, but referencing your actual past, I think, is almost even stronger. Bringing it together with this oil that really comes alive on the canvas. I think it's awesome.
You got a favorite?
Of all of them, I like the bench in the front with like the hands sort of reaching over. And then there's one, how you do the reflection of the eyes and like the knife and stuff, but it's like a cooking one.
Yes, it's the butcher knife.
Yeah.
Every Asian household has one.
Totally, but just like the aesthetic of the hands with the sort of the kid looking and you see him looking and like, yeah, it's great. I thought that was awesome.
I am impressed with that one because that was a pretty big size that haven't tried before in painting. I've done murals, but that's a different scale.
Yeah.
I think painting has a more particular nuance. So I'm really happy with that one.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, it's so big and really such a moment. So having that magnus opus moment where you have the big painting, the solo show, it all comes together in a really cool way. How has art changed your life?
It changed my life drastically, actually, because it was like 8 years ago when I decided to be a painter, a master painter. That's why I said, okay, we'll start there. Master painter, because you're already good but you don't know the history. You don't know that too well. In terms of access to like contemporary art world and like what does the art scene look like, and knowing just what happened in the past decades is something I didn't really think about until I decided I had enough of the direction I was taking in my life. It wasn't working out. So when things weren't going right, things were going great in school with my art program and me being a painter. So growing up as a first generation to immigrant parents, the idea of being an artist was not Like, you know, it was kind of like, no, can we find something more secure? But like, life just kind of was all like, you're good at this. You're good at this, like all the way up until college. And I was just like, in the hardest moment of my life, I decided like, I'm just gonna take this leap, actually. Like, I'll take the leap. And I like totally changed my life. But in terms of like, you know, showing, I would say last year, it was Sow Tailor here that gave me like kind of my first show. And I think from there, just really fostered, you know, I'm like, it's been such a blessing.
Cool. Is there anything you want to shout out?
You know, shout out to Greg, shout out to Karen, shout out to Stefano, man. They're the ones that put me on, like I really appreciate it.
So thank you guys for being here. This was Tidawhitney at Sow Tailor, the show Household. It was fantastic. You can see everything around you. Please like and subscribe to the video. Check out my Instagram at David Maxwell and my YouTube as well. Have a good one.